MySQL is one of the world's best and most popular open source database. So if you're a tech savvy and want to be more knowledgeable about MySQL, this tutorial will help you with that. I am Henry Tulao Jr. and today I will discuss a comprehensive knowledge about triggers, stored procedures, and views. So let's jump right to the topic. First, the triggers. What are MySQL triggers, or also known as SQL triggers? So, SQL trigger, by definition, is a user-defined SQL command that is invoked automatically in response to an event such as insert, update, or delete. Now, in simplest term, when there's an event or event occurs, do something. Meaning, a trigger is automatically executed or triggered in response to a certain event on a particular table or view. So, now to understand the triggers fully, let's jump into our MySQL environment and start the demonstration. Now, let's switch to our MySQL environment to create a trigger. So, I have already set up a sample database with an employee table and attendance table. Here, we want to update the remark column in the attendance table whenever there's a new attendance added. We will create a trigger that automatically sets the remark column to late or on time based on the predefined threshold. In this example, we assume that the threshold will be 8 a.m. for simplicity. Now, in this step, we will first define the trigger event and timing. So, create trigger and the name of our trigger, that will be before attendance insert. Then the timing will be before insert on attendance, which is our table, and it will be executed for each row. Now in this step, we have defined our trigger before insert operations on the attendance table for each row. Now in the second step, we will set the trigger action. So let's type in begin, then we'll indent it or tab it for clarity. So in this part, we will add a SQL statement, the main trigger action. So this part will update the remark column based on the threshold. So let's declare first our threshold. Declare late threshold time default that will be 8 a.m. and then the condition will be if new that time in, if there's an attendance added greater than late threshold, then we will set the remark new remark equals late, and then else let's set new dot remark equals on time. And then let's end the if. Now we have specified the action to be performed by the trigger. Now the trigger checks the time in column for each new attendance record and sets the remark column to late or on time based on the predefined threshold of 8 a.m. Here, we encapsulate the trigger logic within the begin and end block. But we have a problem. We're trying to create the trigger, however, MySQL is stopping at the semicolon here. So we end all the statements with a semicolon rather than at the end. So as we all know that the semicolon is known as the delimiter or the period of a sentence, we're telling MySQL that our statement to end after the end keyword. So now we can actually change the delimiter temporarily. So let's type in delimiter before creating the trigger, and let's stick to the forward slashes as our temporary delimiter. So let's type in. So let's type in delimiter and forward slashes as our temporary delimiter. And at the bottom, after the end keyword, let's type in delimiter and semicolon. With that, the delimiter will be back to semicolon. Now we have inserted now the next step is we'll execute the SQL script to create a trigger. Here. Now let's add a new attendance record to see if our trigger is in action. Let's type in insert into attendance then employee attendance ID employee ID and then attendance date, time in. Now we won't be putting any value for our remark because the trigger will do it for us. Now the values, let's just copy this, will be here. We're inserting a new attendance record for employee ID 1 with a time in value of 8:30 a.m. So the trigger should automatically set the remark column to late. And there you have it. We've successfully created a trigger in MySQL that automatically sets the remark column to late or on time based on the time in value. So triggers are powerful tools for automating actions and ensuring data consistency in our database. Now let's proceed to stored procedures. Stored procedures in MySQL are precompiled SQL statements that are stored in database and can be executed on demand. They offer several advantages in terms of modularity, reusability, and security. They improve code maintainability and readability by breaking down complex logic into smaller, manageable procedures. They reduce redundancy and promotes a dry or don't repeat yourself approach in coding. And it improves security by restricting direct access to database objects and allowing fine-grained control over user permissions. In addition, it can be non-parameterized or parameterized queries. So meaning it facilitates customization and reuse of procedures with different input values. Now let's proceed to the demonstration. Since we're talking about attendance system, or we're dealing with attendance system, I have already prepared a statement relating to attendance. Now this statement here will inner join the attendance and the employee table, then display all the lates from the selected employee. Now this statement here, I must say that this is a very wordy statement, and if this statement is something I always written often, I could save this into store procedure and reuse it later and over again. Now, let's make this as into a store procedure. First, let's type in create procedure. Since I am going to get the late attendance, and then this is what I'm talking about, that this stored procedure can be parameterized or none, but in this case I'm going to use a parameterized stored procedure. Now in this, let's type in, and then I want to get the employee ID, and then its data type is int. Now we defined our stored procedure get late attendance that takes an employee ID as an input parameter. Now next, let's write the stored procedure logic. Now type in begin, and after this, let's insert here the statement that will select the attendance records for the specified employee. Okay, and now with that, we encapsulate the logic of our stored procedure within the begin and end block. Here we are selecting late attendance records for the specified employee from the employee and attendance tables. Now, and again, we need to change the delimiter temporarily. So we use from the top, let's type in the limiter and double forward slash, and at the end the limiter, let's put back the semicolon. Now let's demonstrate how to call our store procedure to retrieve the late attendance records for a specific employee. Now to do that, let's call on our stored procedure, type call, and then the name of our stored procedure, get late attendance, and then I want to get the lates for the employee ID 1. This syntax here, we're calling the get late attendance store procedure with an example employee ID of 1. So the stored procedure will return the late attendance records for that employee. And as you can see, we have here all the lates from the employee ID 1. Now let's proceed to views. Views in databases is a virtual table that is based on the result set of select query. Unlike the physical table, a view doesn't store the data itself. Instead, it dynamically retrieves and displays the data from the underlying tables or other views whenever the view is queried. Views provide a way to present a subset of data, or to simplify, complex queries. Now, views can be schema bound, which means they are bound to the structures of the underlying tables. This helps ensure data consistency. Now, views can include filters, conditions, and joins, allowing for the creation of more complex and customized data structures or sets. And access to a view can be controlled independently on the underlying tables, allowing for fine-grained security permissions. Now, without further ado, let's proceed to the demonstrations for further understanding. Now, for our example, let's say we have to create an attendance sheet that will only display the first and last name of the employee and the days of his or her attendance. Remember, a view isn't a real table, but it can behave as if they were. Again, I want to create a view of the employee's first, last names, and attendance dates. So instead of another table, because we try not to have a data redundancy. So another advantage is these views are always up to date. Changes from those real tables will also update the view. So let's create a view. To create, let's type in create view. Then the name of the view, let's say employee attendance, then as, and what would we like to select? Let's select E first, E for the employee, because we will be going to inner join the employee table and attendance table. So let's say E first name, comma, E last name, comma, and A for attendance, dot attendance date. From, let's say, from a real table, of course, from employee E join attendance A on E dot employee ID equals A dot employee ID and to wrap it up, semicolon. And I think that was a successful. And let's try to find it. As we can see, under the views category, there is our view named employee attendance. Now to select all from the view, now type in select all from that view name, employee attendance, and yeah, there we have it. We have the first and last names and attendance date columns from the inner join of employee and attendance table. Now this view can be interacted with as if they are a real table. And to test, I will add order by last name ascending. Yeah, there you see it. The view is behaving as if it is a real table. Now to delete a view, let's type in drop the name of the view, which is the employee, attendance, and it's gone. The same way for our triggers and stored procedures. We can drop them so that we can delete it. And that's all there is for our tutorial, and thank you for watching.